Hey folks, Sean here, and I'm out by the chicken coop again, and like all my videos, I'm going to be talking about chickens and bees and my dogs and nature, but it's the end of May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I want to take a little bit of a left turn here and also talk about mental health, specifically mine, and how those other topics and my mental health are intertwined and what that means for me. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope it might reach somebody who needs to hear it. So let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is the first year that I've actually kind of taken that serious and decided to be aware of mental health. Reason being, without getting too personal, the last several years have been very difficult for me and my family in general. And before that, I have always considered myself a happy, well-balanced, satisfied person. But just due to some life circumstances, some personal choices, some things with folks around me that directly impacted me, the last couple of years, I guess I'm not afraid to admit that I've had kind of gone through I guess my version of a mental health crisis. It didn't involve, I guess, maybe worst case scenarios, but when it's you going through it, it's still a worst case scenario. There's no little bit of mental health crisis. You're having one or you're not, and the varying degrees, they don't really matter at the time. So that's the place I found myself in, kind of coming into this May, wanting to really pay more attention to that and take this month serious as a way to be aware of my mental health and get myself in a better place. And so I just wanted to put that as kind of the precursor to the bridge that I want to make into how my mental health and my chickens, bees, dogs, and just nature in general are intertwined together. The latter part of this video is going to be about some changes I made specifically this month for my mental health. I want to get to that with some new practices I'm putting into my life, and it will tie together with what I'm about to say. But right now I want to get into the meat of this video, which is those four things and what they've meant to my mental health through this time of struggling that I have gone through the last few years. Before we get into any of this, I do want to say I am no medical authority, and I am not giving this as any sort of advice. I'm just putting out what my life experiences, what I've done to make changes, and that have worked for me. As I decided to become more aware of my mental health this month, I wanted to take stock of things in my life that were helping it and things in my life that were maybe helping deteriorate it a little bit, and make some choices and decisions and some hard thinking about those things. Well, I came up with a list of 4 things that have helped me immensely, besides I would also put family in there, but that's I guess that's obvious. A good family life is going to help you mentally, so that's in there too. But again, for my channel, I'm going to focus on the chickens, bees, dogs, and nature. And I'm going to start with kind of chickens. As I was taking stock of things that make me feel better, things that, like, when am I happy? When am I not depressed? When am I not anxious? When am I not stressed? The first thing I thought is, well, I'm not stressed when I'm out in the chicken coop doing work, helping them, collecting eggs, just being around them. Chickens are wonderful. So, as I always do when I think of something, or when I think I might be on to something or something like that, I immediately dive into research. And what I found was I'm not crazy in this. there's a lot of research that does show that chickens are good for mental health. And when we decided to get chickens, as you know, everybody does when they get chickens, we had a list of reasons why. Like, oh, we could have, we could raise meat birds, we could have fresh eggs, just kind of like the idea of kind of bringing that homestead thing into our lives anyway. I did not have, they'll be good for my mental health on my radar, but that's just something I found. And I want to go through a few reasons why that is. Through the research, I found that, and also through my personal experience, I found that chickens are very social animals, and they really enjoy human presence, human company. I'm sitting on this chair now, and the chickens are actually all around me. A lot of times they perch up here with us. I actually had to move some chicken coop off of this chair so I could sit down, because it's as much their chair as mine. When we're sitting out here, my wife or my daughter or my son or I, or any number of us, they're perched up here with us. They love being around us. Through the research, I found that they actually reduce depression and anxiety, and this is through some studies that are on a government website at the National Library of Medicine. If you ever want to go check that out. Chickens in this study were found to be very empathetic and very sensitive to emotion. They can sense how you're feeling, and that kind of really helps them be given empathy to you. They're just such social creatures. It's just the way that they are. Another thing that I found, and this doesn't necessarily pertain to me, but I wanted to throw it out there, is they're definitely vocal creatures. I guess they can make up to about 20 different sounds that, kind of in a language. They basically have kind of like 20 words. And we've got to know a lot of them. We can tell when they've laid, or when they're angry, or when one chicken wants the nesting box but there's another chicken in it, or they want out of the coop and we haven't opened the door yet. There's all these vocalizations that we're learning, and I found a study saying that actually helps people with maybe speech disabilities or communication disabilities. It helps them kind of understand how vocalization works and how to respond to it. It's a good skill to have, so I thought that was cool. Another thing chickens provide for people is a sense of routine and responsibility. Every morning, when I get up, first thing I do is feed my dogs, and then the next thing I do is come out here, let the chickens out, make sure they have food, make sure they have water, make sure everything's okay, got to collect the eggs, got to clean the coop. There's this routine to it and this responsibility that has been proven to be good for mental health. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that this is going to be exactly how it is for you. I'm just saying that these studies I read show that, and in my own life, it's true for me. And I've felt that this has really helped. Another thing that I've definitely learned, and studies show, is that chickens provide a good amount of happiness and laughter, because they're pretty comical at times. You can sit back here and just enjoy watching them and their little habits and their things and the funny things that they get into or do, which is also very positive for your mental health. And because they love that human interaction, they're a good cure for loneliness, which comes with depression a lot, whether you're depressed because you're lonely, or you're lonely because you're depressed and isolating. The chickens, they don't care about that. If you're in the backyard, they provide a good companionship for you. There's actually a lot of, as I was doing this research, I came across several chicken therapy centers where they use chickens for therapy for this stuff. And I just thought that was really cool. And I see how that happened, because when we got chickens, I was inadvertently getting myself some medicine for some stuff that I was feeling. I also want to move into dogs now. I don't have a lot to say about dogs because there's so much information out there. And of course, there's, I think that nobody would really contest the fact that dogs are good for mental health. But as I was going through this list with chickens, I realized it's essentially the same list for dogs. They're social. They enjoy the human interaction. They are empathetic to feelings and vocal and provide that routine and responsibility. They lessen loneliness, of course, because of their companionship. One thing about dogs is when I was feeling maybe down or had a bad day at work, or my wife and I had a disagreement or something, whenever I get home or whenever I walk in a room, they are so happy that I'm there. They just want to cuddle and give me kisses and follow me everywhere, and there's that sense of it does feel nice. It does feel nice to have that around. So those are the chicken and dog thoughts. When my wife wanted bees, I thought that'd be a cool thing. I thought it would mostly be her thing. We know a pretty prominent beekeeper around here, and he was thankfully willing to mentor us, and especially her, and get her started. And again, it was one of those things like, yeah, it'd be cool to have bees. It's kind of like a cool thing to say you do. Plus we get honey, and there's not too much maintenance in it, a few hours every couple weeks. So let's do it. And again, what I wasn't counting on was the mental health aspect of it, and how it's really helped both of us there to have bees. And there's a couple reasons for that. Is I feel like it increases confidence, and there's other people that I saw on the internet that say the same thing. Especially because bees, I think most people grow up with a healthy, or maybe an unhealthy, fear of bees, and also not, dogs. Dogs are pretty common, and maybe everybody's not the best dog owner, but they kind of understand the principles of you got to feed them and walk them and make sure they get outside to go to the bathroom and things like that. When you decide to be a beekeeper, man, there's just a lot of things that you don't know. That's not like taking care of other animals that you're used to. And I think as you learn how to do that, or as we learn, I should use we instead of you, because this is all about us. This is just our testimony. As we have learned to do things, especially my wife, I just see this confidence growing, this thing that we've learned new skills, and bees are so unlike like a mammal or like a dog or something, or a cat or a pig or anything like that. That it's a whole different skill set. That how do you manage an insect? How do you manage a pollinator? And to develop that skill, the process of developing it just gives us a certain amount of confidence that we can kind of learn how to do a lot of hard things. Another thing that mentally has benefited us, and I've seen other people say as I was kind of looking into this topic, is the amount of focus that it increases, because you have to be focused. Bees can sense your fear and anxiety, and they kind of feed off of that. When you go in to take care of bees at their hives, you have to calm down, which is also a benefit. It promotes calmness and a focus, and then they're completely fine with you being there. But that focus is good for us, because no matter what's going on in that day, when you're so focused on something, and you have to be so focused on something, you kind of forget everything else that you were focused on before. You have to have a single mindset, and that is almost like a meditation. It really is. And speaking of meditation, there's a lot of studies that say the buzzing of bees is at a certain frequency, where I think my wife told me it's at like 440 hertz or something like that is the bee sound, that has been found to be calming and soothing. And that's kind of cool. And I see that when you get around those bees and it's just that buzzing, it's not a I don't know, scary sound. It's not a stressful sound, at least once you've got used to them. It's just like a really calming sound for sure. Studies also show, and this doesn't pertain to either of us, but I wanted to throw it out there, that beekeeping has been shown to help vets from the military and reduce PTSD. And of course, vets aren't the only people that get PTSD, but I think part of that is that calming and the focus. I don't know for sure. Like I said, I'm not a medical professional, but I see how that could be true for sure. We do have some PTSD in our family from other stuff, and yeah, when we're out there, it's just a different thing with those bees. Also, a neat thing is that their honey has an antioxidant in it, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but you can look it up. But it's got a certain antioxidant in it that is actually it is good for brain function, which of course is good for mental health, and we believe that. Not only that, but there's just a sense of like, we raised these bees that made this honey, and now we're eating this honey. It's kind of like chickens with eggs. There's just something about that is kind of mentally soothing for us. Like, we did this. It's a sense of accomplishment, I guess, which is good for us. One other thing is that studies show that keeping bees, raises serotonin levels in the beekeepers. And the thing that we find is the beekeepers we talk to, and with us ourselves, is you love your bees, but you start loving bees in general, just like maybe you do with dogs, or maybe you do with chickens or cats or whatever you're into. But the thing with bees is you can't take your chickens everywhere. When you go to the grocery store or you're walking into your office building or so. Oh, it just had a chicken visitor pop up. That's Celeste. She's our Easter egger. When you're walking into your office building, say, maybe a place of stress for you, your job, and maybe there's like a pot of flowers at the door and some bees there, and you see those bees and that serotonin that you get with your bees, you kind of get it when you just see bees anywhere. It's an amazing thing. It's really cool. Now it's like, anytime we're out anywhere, and bees are everywhere around here. If there's flowers, if there's something with pollen, there's going to be bees around. You just see them, and it just makes us smile to see them. So no matter where we are, there's just a bigger chance that we're going to see that thing that makes us smile and makes us happy, even if we're walking into a place or we're at a place of stress or anxiety or something like that. Just seeing those bees makes us happy now, and that stemmed from us being beekeepers. Of course, one thing that bees, chickens, dogs, or any animal, if you have pigs or cattle or whatever you have, sheep, any sort of animal, one thing they all have in common that's really great for mental health is that they force you to get outside, and outside is such a good thing for mental health. I'm not going to get too much into that because there's just so much information on that you can go find, and I think that most people have heard that before and probably believe it. But for us personally, it's so good for our mental health to be outside. And like I said, after I feed my dogs every morning, I have to come out and take care of the chickens. If it's 30 below zero, if it's 103, at some point in the day, I have to be outside taking care of the chickens. If it's raining, if it's sunny, it doesn't matter. So it forces me to get out and experience the day, the temperature, the sunshine, or the clouds, or the rain, or the snow. And all of those things are just so good for my mental health. And it's so wonderful. Also, though, with nature, I just want to point out that we found nature is just good for our mental health anyway. And we are people that like to go camping and fishing and hunting and hiking and backpacking and all those things. My dogs are getting loud here. Oh, I think they saw a rabbit. There it goes. Or a squirrel. we love to be outside. And in fact, yesterday where we live, we have the Rocky Mountains right to our west, and we have some grasslands right to our east, and we live right in between them, and we love both. Yesterday we took a trip up to the mountains and enjoyed the river, and my daughter and I decided to go a little further to a lake we had never been to, up the trail a little bit. We took our dogs, and there's just something about being in nature. We don't get cell phone service when we go up to the mountains very often. We don't get cell phone service out on the grasslands either. It's a wonderful thing. So we find that we don't know what's going on in the world. When we go camping, I don't know the news. I don't know what's happening at work. I don't know what's happening with the other people. I don't see social media. I'm not watching YouTube, which I love to do, but it just gives me that break. I feel like when I'm out in nature, I kind of forget that anything else might exist. This video is getting a little bit longer than I was planning on, but I just wanted to get into that part where I mentioned at the beginning of the changes I actually made in May, and why I've had chickens, bees, dogs, and nature, but it wasn't a cure-all for me, that's for sure. And so I'm a man who, again, I am not a medical authority, so I'm only giving you what's worked for me. This is not advice, but I'm a guy who is not real big on pharmaceutical options. I prefer not to use them. I'm not strictly opposed to them. I just, to me, they're my last option. I like natural things. So in May, I've decided to change my diet, get back into yoga and meditation and exercise, and I am finding it so beneficial to do those things. Also, my wife always says journaling is really good, and I do that, but I'm not as good at that as I should be. So maybe I'll incorporate that too. And the reason being is I do feel like the chickens, dogs, bees, and nature have helped keep me steady through this time, but they're almost like a medicine that kept me from losing it altogether. It wasn't a cure-all. It was just something that got me up and got me going when I wasn't feeling great. It did not cure me. It just kept me going, and that's why it was so important to me. These other things are actually helping me find that peace and those things, the missing part inside of me, and I'm really excited for that. So I think I'm on the right path, and that's just my thoughts on what I've been thinking in May during Mental Health Awareness Month. So I hope this maybe resonated for somebody, or gave you guys something more to think about with your chickens and bees, and just be thankful. And I guess the only advice I have is get outside. Get outside and go spend time with your animals and in nature and with the rivers and the mountains, and you'll feel so much better. I hope everybody's doing well, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.